With more meetings and gatherings occurring online than ever before, there's a need to keep those meetings interesting and impactful. And I think that we sketchnoters can help make that happen. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome to Verbal to Visual. I'm your host, Doug Neill, and today I'd like to share some ways that I've been not only sketchnoting online meetings, but presenting those sketchnotes in real time to the benefit of those that are attending the meeting live and also those that might be catching the replay. And I'm going to encourage you to try doing something similar. Here's how. So the idea here is to bring your sketchnoting skills into this virtual space so that you can participate not only with your words and the conversation that's taking place, but also with the visual record that you can keep throughout that conversation. And rather than just showing your face on screen, you can instead flip to your sketchnotes as you map out the topics that come up. By mapping out the conversation in that visual way, you're supporting the purpose of that gathering and making sure that your team gets the most out of it. You do that with this visual record that helps to keep everyone on the same page. The challenge of any meeting is making sure you're not running in circles with the conversations that you're having. That's true in person and potentially more so online when there's a greater distance between you and the other participants. And the role that your sketchnotes can play, no matter how rough, is this common reference point that helps to keep everyone aligned and moving in the right direction. And you've got a few different options for how to actually do this technically. The one that I've got the most experience with is this one here, screen sharing your tablet while sketchnoting on your app of choice. And depending on your specific tool combination, you might have to connect that tablet via a cord and USB, or you can screen share over Bluetooth without needing that cord connection. What's nice about that is that you can use whatever note-taking app you're the most comfortable with. If you'd like some more support with that specific tool combination, check out our new course, Digital Sketchnoting. If you prefer working with analog tools, this second approach will work better for you, picking up a document camera and using that as your webcam. Those seem to be relatively affordable, and so long as you've got some okay lighting in your room, that allows you to share your analog sketchnotes pretty seamlessly. And whether you're going with the digital or the analog approach, you might consider getting a little bit fancy and sharing both your face and your sketchnote using two different logins to that particular online meeting, if you feel like your device and your internet connection can handle that. And even if you go with just a single login, you can still alternate back and forth throughout that particular meeting, sometimes having your face on camera, other times sharing your sketchnote. And if you give this a try, I have a few tips for you. I encourage you to think of this as a skill building opportunity. Don't feel like you have to create these super polished sketchnotes. It's just about creating this visual record that helps those gathered in that meeting achieve the purpose of it. And when you approach it as this opportunity to build your sketchnoting skills, I think that helps you from getting too hung up on how the thing actually looks. And if you're able, I encourage you to seek out a recurring gathering so that you have the opportunity to refine your process. It'll probably take the first meeting or two just to get fully comfortable participating in an online meeting in this particular way. And after each meeting, you'll probably realize something you might tweak about your sketchnoting process to make it go a little bit smoother next time. And with that goal of a relatively smooth sketchnoting process, I encourage you to set up a starting structure for yourself. Maybe even dividing up the page into certain sections, or at least deciding how you want to go about filling the page in a way that works well with the flow of that particular meeting. With that as an overview of what the process could look like, let me next share some specific examples from my experience. All right, so here I am within my note-taking app of choice called Concepts. Within a folder I've set up for the new course, Digital Sketchnoting. I presented some of the lessons using this tool, but I also kept track of office hours using it as well. And first, let me just show you kind of the iteration that took place over the first few times that I tried taking notes during those office hour sessions when folks were coming in and asking questions about that week's lesson. These first ones were a real mess. And with this one, I wasn't even sharing my screen while capturing these ideas. I was just doing it on my own to get a feel for it. But I think with the next week is when I actually started screen sharing. You start to see a little bit of a structure. I limit myself from using too many colors, just stick with one, and go with a real rough mind map approach. By the next week, the notes get a little bit clearer and more organized. I think I'm maybe working some more visuals into the process, and I've kind of started just with the title of this particular meeting, and then as individual folks come on to ask questions, that's when I branch out from there, starting with their name and then going into the details of their question, using a little bit of gray, but mostly just black here still. Then I start to incorporate just a little bit of color, in this case going away from that mind mapping and kind of just filling the space as questions come up. But by the end of those office hours sessions, kind of got a pretty smooth process going. Again, starting with just the title of that meeting in the center and branching out from there, using more color now, mostly as a highlighter / underline tool. And by the last session of those office hours, we were filling up this page with lots of ideas here. But again, sticking with that same overall structure. So these give you a sense for kind of what the final image looks like. Let me now show you some video from one of those sessions so that you can see what it looked like to create these live. This here is a Zoom meeting at 10x speed. Again, Raj came in with the first question here, so branching out from that title, going with a real simple mind map approach, short phrases, connector lines, a little bit of highlighting, bringing in some imagery as soon as I can. But then there are stretches like this where there might be some conversation around the set of ideas there when no new ideas are being sketched out. That tends to be the case if I'm the one talking, because I'm not yet very good at continuing to talk and sketch at the same time. So it tends to be when someone else might come on that I continue building out this particular mind map. And you can see here, pretty heavy reliance on text, but trying not to get too word heavy, leaning into short phrases as opposed to long sentences. And whenever possible, bringing in some imagery. It's also nice to be able to kind of refer back to different sections of this sketchnote throughout the conversation. With the digital tool, it is nice to be able to edit, adjust the imagery, and even reorganize where specific words or images live. It wasn't uncommon for book recommendations to come up, so tried to stick with a consistent icon to make it easy to find those. And again, here's another section of kind of chatting through some of the ideas that are already there. So don't feel like you always have to be adding something new to the sketchnote. And here you can also see one of the advantages of a digital tool is the ease of zooming in and zooming out, both when creating the sketchnote yourself and also when sharing specific ideas or referring back to the big picture so that others can see those pieces. So this is an example where I was sharing the screen of my sketchnotes for the majority of the meeting. There were a few times when other folks came on to share their screen and share their work, but for the most part, I had this type of a view going. In other office hours sessions, they haven't been quite as much heavy on these sketch notes because sometimes it is nice to focus on the other participants and what they are saying or what they're sharing. So you can kind of decide throughout a given meeting how often you're sharing your sketch note versus maybe just having your face on the screen. And my general approach here to these sketch notes is pretty similar to the approach that I took when sketchnoting Roxane Gay's interview with Chase Jarvis. You can see those sketch notes in a not sped up way in the video titled 1 Hour of Real-Time Sketchnoting. So I hope it was helpful to see those examples and maybe think through how you might do something similar in the online meetings and conferences and events that you attend. Maybe going with that digital approach, maybe getting a document camera so that you can use your favorite analog materials. I really encourage you to give it a try because you might be surprised at the value that you can add to those online experiences just by making the decision to show up in that way and make this contribution that might make the difference between the overall success or failure of that particular gathering. So do give this a try. Let us know how it goes. If you've got other tips about process or tools, drop them in a comment below. And if you're newer to sketchnoting and want to kind of get your feet wet, check out the free download, Getting Started with Sketchnoting. I've shared a link to that down below. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck contributing to your next virtual meeting in this way. And I look forward to sharing more sketchnoting ideas with you next time. Till then.